Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio. Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on YouTube with me, George. I hope you are all well and enjoying the very nice weather that we've got currently at the moment. It's actually a little bit of blue skies where I am at the moment. Before we crack on with this video, I better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud both at Pitchside Talk. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, which you must be, if not, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below to make sure you don't miss another video. Well, you might be wondering, George, what is this video all about? Well, it is a brand new series that is launching today on Pitchside Talk called Fans Talk, where I talk to a football fan and we have a lovely chat about their time supporting the club, the first memories, the biggest moments that has happened whilst they've been supporting the club, and also what has been happening with those clubs this season. So, without further ado, I better introduce my first guest this week. It's somebody who has been on Pitchside Talk a long time ago. I think probably, nearly 2 years ago. He was on the show, and somebody I've worked with many times before. It is Harry. Harry, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm all good, yeah. It's we've had a crazy time in football, but everything
Oh,
seems
yeah,
to be
the last few
calming
days
down.
must have been bad for you. Yeah, it's been a hectic, 2 days, hasn't it? Has it been 2 days? Not even been a week. It's felt like a week.
Yeah, it's felt like a week of hectic football, but I think it has been literally 2 days that's been crammed
I mean,
in.
yeah, it started like Sunday night, didn't it?
God,
And it's only Tuesday. It's only, what is it, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
So yeah, it's been like two and a bit days. I can't believe it.
No,
It's all just come out of the blue, hasn't it? Really.
it is absolutely come out of the blue. Well, we better crack on with this. And Harry, I must ask you a very important question before we move on. What we're going to talk about today? What club do you support? And we're going to be talking about today.
Oh, we're talking about Derby County, unfortunately.
Yes,
Wayne Rooney's Derby County, or in the past, Frank Lampard's Derby County, or if you want to go further back, even Steve McLaren's Derby County.
Yeah, yes, the Derby County, the club
Which we weren't known about as much, I don't think, under Steve McLaren. It's just with the Lampard and the Rooney days where we're literally just like the front of every newspaper.
I think it's before Derby blew up on the internet, really, with memes and everything, really. So
I really don't know why there's not been a documentary yet from Amazon or Netflix. The mind boggles, really.
There will be.
I think it must be in the works.
Yeah, there's going to be one.
I mean, it'll have to be like a 16-part series, probably, or even maybe 22 episodes or something. I don't know. It will go on for a while.
One for each game, I think.
Spygate will have to have a cliffhanger for just to be a part 1, part 2 episode, I think. There'll be that much to cover.
Gosh, we'll have to wait for that one day. Well, before we talk about Derby County, I heard from a little birdie, which was you yourself, that you were a Manchester United fan before you came a Derby.
Oh, I know. He's got this information out of me.
Yeah, I've tapped it out of you. But I want to ask you, was it down to...
You have indeed.
The level of success at the time? Because Manchester United at the time were winning everything, and Derby County were, unfortunately, well, I think they'd just been relegated from the Premier League from that awful season they had.
Yeah, I was only like 8 or 9, I think, so I didn't really know too much about the all the teams. So I think I think because I was collecting match attacks and I had a lot of Man United cards, I just went, "Oh, United, they'll do." And they had quite a good team at the time. And you know how it is when you're like that age. You're a bit of you don't want to say you're a glory hunter, but you kind of are.
Yeah.
Because everyone as a kid wants to experience like success with their team. They don't want to be supporting some team like, well, it would have been Derby at the time, who aren't winning anything. So I think, once you go a bit older, you're a bit more loyal to where you've come from, and that's when it became Derby. And obviously, my family, my uncle, my granddad, my dad, all support the mighty Rams. So it just had to be.
Yeah, well,
it just had to be.
Well, after that spells Man U fan, you said you became a Derby County fan. I guess it was down to more family. I guess all your family sort of has grown up supporting Derby County. Is that why you thought, I'll follow them, because they've supported them for probably all their lives, and grown up in probably as well?
It kind of did go back to that, really. And obviously I just moved down from Derby, and then we were going back there, so we were going to a few games. So it kind of, yeah, I just ended up supporting them because just for more loyalty,
Yeah. What was your sort of
even though we weren't doing very well.
yeah, not doing too well. But what were your first memories of Derby County? Or was it watching them on TV, going to Pride Park at the time? As you said there, you
I
were
think,
moving down from Derby County and that.
yeah, I think it probably was going to Pride Park, like driving past the ground. Like every time we knew we were in Derby when we saw the stadium. I think things like that, and the fact that my brother had a Derby shirt. He wasn't really that into football, but he had a Derby shirt, and then I just saw him wearing that. I was like, yeah, maybe I should support them. If he's not
Yeah.
that interested, I need to kind of take his place.
Yeah. Well, as you said there, you've been past Pride Park many times. So you've probably been to many times. What was your first game of going to seeing Derby County play? Was it home or away? You know, what was it? What was it
it,
like going to Pride Park or away?
it was a home game, and it was against Shrewsbury Town or Shrewsbury, whatever you want to call it. You can call it what you want. I just call it Shrewsbury. And we lost 3-2. It was actually a pretty good game, actually. It was quite end to end, really. We didn't really do too much until the second half. We were terrible the first half, and then we kind of fought back into the game, but we were already like I think we were like 3-0 down, and then we got 2 goals, and we just couldn't get back into the game.
Well, yeah.
So
5 goal
yeah, it
thriller.
wasn't great.
Well, a 5 goal thriller for the first game is pretty good, but unfortunately, your team
It is,
they
yeah.
didn't come out on top today.
But I think when it's your first game and you're experiencing the atmosphere, you're experiencing like the food there, and just the passion from the fans. The result doesn't tend to matter as much, I don't think, because you're a bit younger as well. You're not focusing on the league as much. You're just focusing on the match, aren't you? And the day that comes with it. So yeah, it wasn't great to lose, but still a good experience at a young age, I reckon.
Yeah, it's good to go and experience your club, and especially in something that's historic like the League Cup. We all know how historical that is. Well, it's now called the Carabao Cup, but it's still the League Cup to me.
I don't know. I think it was the Carling Cup at the time.
Oh yeah,
which having fought back to that, the Carling Cup is a funny name, really. And it was also the Coca-Cola Cup, or what? No, that was a championship.
The championship.
It has been the Carling Cup, and now it's the Carabao Cup, isn't it? Whatever will it be next? They might as well just call it the Milk Cup at this point.
Yeah. Also, we've got to mention a memorable league. Was it the Empower League, something like that? Or do you remember that?
Oh, the Empower, was it the Empower Championship as well? Yeah, I remember that.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's had a lot of names.
Memories.
I don't know what else was it. There was a phone sponsor as well. I swear at some point. I don't know though. God. It's had a lot of sponsors.
Too far back for my time.
You just end up calling it the League Cup, don't you? Really, or the Milk Cup, whatever one suits. Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. Well, in your time of supporting Derby County now, it has been filled with lots of highs and quite a lot of downs, more downs than highs. But one season in particular, which was full of highs and downs, was the 13/14 season. Derby County that year, they started off poorly. Nigel Clough was sacked after 9 games, 4 defeats in his first 9. They were sitting 14th at the time, but their fortunes, turned for the better after a comeback against Ipswich, a 4-4 draw. I think they were down 4-0 at half time, and they came back to draw at 4.
That game was incredible. I wish I'd gone to watch that game. I mean, not for the first half, we were 4-0 down, but the second half, the fact that we got back into that and got a point from it was just something to admire. Yeah, it was incredible. I've never seen a game like it. I don't know if I watched it on the TV. No, I listened to it on the radio. Yeah, we weren't watching it back then.
I think
because it was a midweek game.
Existed. I think it's what I followed became a thing because you couldn't games, could you?
Yeah, I didn't watch it. Sky weren't showing the midweek games then, I don't think either.
No.
But it was one hell of a game to listen to on the radio. I couldn't believe it.
Well, then the next game, Derby County appointed a new manager, a man in Steve McClaren, very infamous for his time at England, which I will not mention his name. He was appointed for his first spell at Derby County as the coach after a successful spell in Holland with Twente. I think he won the league titles with them if I remember correctly. But in his time at Derby, he got Derby up the table. They flew up the table, 22 wins, 7 draws, and 7 losses under his time there. It just missed out on the top 2 automatic places by 8 points, but they went into the playoffs. But for you, was it great to finally see your club doing well after 2 very mediocre years under Nigel Clough? Weren't great, really looked like they're going to be stuck in the championship for a long time at that point. But under Steve McClaren, he got them to absolutely fly.
That was one hell of a season. Yeah, it was a great time to be a Derby fan. One of the only good times. Yeah, the results we were getting. That, and I did see on Twitter the other week, someone put it in a tweet about all those games we won in a row. It was just incredible. It was just back-to-back wins, and something like that now would be I would take. And we can't even get one win at the moment. So, but that was, I think that was when we really peaked. Really, because ever since then we've not got back to that level we were, and the sort of players we had under McClaren were insane as well. Like Will Hughes, we had Hendrick, we had Bryson. That midfield 3 were something to admire in the Championship. And then we had Johnny Russell, Martin. I think was it Tom Ince? No, I don't know if it was Tom Ince at the time. It might have been. Yeah, one of the team we had was just brilliant. It was too good for the Championship. I don't know if it would have made the Premier League, but it was just in the middle of those leagues, really. It was brilliant to watch. Great attacking football, and we scored some amazing goals from it. And it's just a shame we haven't seen that football for a long time.
Well, Derby, they headed into the playoff games that season. We all know the playoffs is a lottery. I think it's the first time Derby been in the playoffs for a long time, but getting through to the Premier League, it is a hard thing to do. But they cruised through the semi-finals against Brighton, a 6-2 win on aggregate and over the 2 legs. They only had QPR to beat.
I did watch that, I think.
You did watch that? Well done. Wow. You saw some good football.
I think so. I think I did watch it. Yeah, I think I remember watching it. And then I ended up watching the final at a friend's house because we didn't buy the football then.
Shame.
But it was cheaper back in the day, actually, because you could get a Now TV pass for about $6.99. And now it's cost you about £10.
Yeah, or an arm and a leg.
Yeah, or it might have been $5. It might have been even $5.99. That was a bargain back then. Absolute bargain, just for one day of football, especially when you've got about 3 or 4 games on. Absolute steal.
Beautiful. Well,
now you cost you about £10. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is madness. Well, QPR were the team that the Derby need to beat in the final. I think we can sort of say Derby came into it as favourites. QPR, they had to use extra time against Wigan to beat them. Yes, Wigan, I am correct. Yeah, they're now in League One. But the last time they played, Derby did beat them. Derby really dominated the game. QPR, they went down to 10 men. Gary O'Neill's late challenge on Johnny Russell, who was through on goal. He probably would have scored it.
Yeah, we were incredible. We were incredible that season. It's just that final game we were just unlucky, really.
Yeah,
we were odds-on favourites.
Chris Martin, he hit the post, and then 10 seconds before additional time, Richard Keogh, he failed to make that clearance. Bobby Samora pounced, got it back of the net into the Premier League first time asking. But a cruel way, really, for Derby's season to end like that, because for you, it must have been heartbreaking, being so close to that Premier League. It was at the time.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It was not great at all.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't go to Wembley for that one, because that was just a horrible way to lose. It's right at the end as well. Yeah, not great. I was still at school, so I couldn't go to watch that one, luckily.
Did it sort of feel that like this was going to be Derby's best sort of chance? Because Derby really just dominated that game. They were the best, I think we could say they were the best team in that final throughout the whole.
We definitely were. We definitely were, and it was just. I think it just comes down to luck at the end. If you don't get the rub of the green, really. I think that's what it comes down to in the end.
Yeah, well, after that season, Derby really struggled to repeat those successes under Steve McClaren. He was sacked the next season. He missed out on those playoffs, and he got sacked. And then Paul Clement came in. He was appointed as Steve McClaren's successor. First managerial job working away from Carlo Ancelotti, who previously worked at Chelsea and PSG and Real Madrid. He was sacked in February after only 1 win and 7, despite being in fifth.
I never understood that sacking, but I think there might be a reason behind the sacking, which I won't mention, because it's personal.
Okay.
There was something going on behind the scenes which led to him
Ooh,
being sacked. I don't think it was football related.
interesting. I'll
to
ask you about
be
that off the
to be
recordings.
yes, to be discussed after the show.
Yeah. Well, and then
I don't want to say what it was, but it was controversial.
fair enough. And then Darryl sort of took over. He got Derby into the playoffs. He finished them fifth, but they didn't get knocked out in the semi-finals. Put an end to his time. And then up next was Nigel Pearson, 4 months in charge. He was suspended in his first 4 months after falling out with Mel Morris at the time, the owner. And then a few weeks later, he was sacked. And Derby were left in 20th
He
place.
was awful.
For you, after coming so close to the Premier League sort of glory, did you feel your club was slowly on this downward spiral to League One? Because it hadn't been really done well. Clement, he gone, and what happened with the caretaker manager time, and then Nigel Pearson, really, it left Derby in a very dangerous position, really, of going, we could be in League One soon.
Yeah, well, I was quite happy to get Pearson initially. I think he was even appointed on my birthday, I'm pretty sure. And I was really optimistic. I thought the things he'd done to Leicester, like the fact that he got them really the title, really, because he built that team that Claudio Ranieri ended up winning the league with.
Yeah.
So I did think at the time, it might be a decent appointment. He might be able to get us promoted, but he never really took off. I don't think he barely won any games. It was just a horrible time.
Yeah.
And he'll never come back to Derby. He just didn't settle in at all.
No.
I don't think he got on well with the players at all. I think there was a lot of problems in the dressing room. I reckon with falling outs and stuff. So yeah, it didn't work out.
It didn't. Well, the man who put Derby back on the right path in that 13/14 season, he came back to do the same job. The Lord and Savior, Steve McClaren. For you, were you happy?
Surprised me. It really did surprise me that he came back.
Were you happy to see him come back? Because when his first spell, he took Derby from really peril and 14th. They were out of sorts. He got them to that playoff final. And did you feel that he could possibly do that again? I know it's hard to repeat success in football, but do you feel he could have done it that year?
I think, well, he did kind of bring a spark back initially, but the problem is he'll have a good plan A and that'll work for a long period. But even in that QPR losing season, we still had a spell where we didn't win in like 9 or 10 games. And unfortunately, he had another spell like this in his second season. And once you keep losing, he doesn't seem to get you out of the rut. No. We went under. Unfortunately, that's the biggest problem with him. He doesn't sustain his performance isn't long term, really.
No,
and that's why he doesn't last very long in clubs.
Well, as you said there, his performance didn't last long. He only survived until March 2017 when he was dismissed. Another manager out the door. What did you feel about when he got sacked? Did you feel like it was a little bit sad he couldn't repeat his success he did in his first time and all that sort of stuff?
He's very popular at Derby, so a lot of people weren't angry about him leaving. They understood it because he wasn't on a good run of form. But it was nice to get him back for a time, but it's hard to repeat the success. It really is. Like, it was such a good season. We had so many good victories, but yeah, I just didn't see it happen. I didn't see it happening again.
Yeah, well, after he went 2 days later, a new manager came in Gary Rowett, a very high
Rowett, yeah.
I don't know how you say his name. It's Rowett.
Gary Rowett, yeah.
Rowett. There you go. That's how I'm gonna try to say it.
I just stick with Snake.
Fair enough. We'll get onto that a little bit later on why. But he was a very highly rated manager at the time after that spell at Birmingham City, which he was let go very strangely at the time. But he took Derby to 9th just in that last bit of the season. And in the next season, he really made his mark on the club. He signed plenty of experienced players. Got Tom Hudson came in, Curtis Davis, Cameron Jerome, who came in as well.
Cameron Jerome, he was quite good for us. I was very surprised. He actually did fairly well.
journeyman, I think we can now say, Cameron Jerome, being everywhere here, there, and everywhere, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
he did go everywhere. I think we had
Um,
Darren Bent at the time as well, so we had a lot of old players.
yeah, and then he guided Derby back to the playoffs again, but they lost out to Fulham in the semi-finals. And then, a lot of people really did like Gary Rowlett at the time, we can say, not after what you just said to me earlier on, but a lot of people didn't like
Yeah,
him.
he didn't like his football. His style of football was very bad,
Hmm.
very defensive. I mean, there's a phrase for it. I won't say because, but you'll know the phrase where it's very defensive football and it's just lump ball,
Yes,
um,
I know what you
and
mean.
just try and like win the game in fairest way possible.
I know what you mean, but he was liked by a
Negative
lot.
football.
He was liked by a lot of supporters, but then he asked for permission to go and speak to Stoke City, who had just been relegated from the Premier League in that time, and then he left. And as you said there early on, you described him as a snake. Did it
Yeah,
feel
he
like?
kind of just snake us.
Did you
Yeah.
feel like for you it was another kick in the teeth, really, for Derby, and for you as a fan because he was a good manager, he was building something good. I know he got to the playoffs semi-finals and lost, but he would have probably come back again, and maybe could have taken Derby one step further. But for you, like it must have just been horrible to seeing him just going and just like, oh, really? Come on.
Yeah, it was really. I thought he maybe could have took us up, but I don't know if he had the sort of long term focus like McLaren did, because it was
Mm,
sort of get the experienced players in, get your 34, 35-year-olds in, and then there's nothing for the future. That you're not building with the youngsters, and that's the problem. Because if you go in the Premier League, you're not going to stay in it for very long if you've got a lot of like older players and not a lot of like high stamina like younger players.
yeah.
So I didn't see his approach working really. I mean, there were stronger teams in that league during that season. We weren't the strongest team. But again, sometimes that works for you. Like QPR weren't the strongest team in that league and they ended up getting promoted. So maybe we could have done it. But again, the playing the way we did, it wouldn't have been a nice way of going up, I don't think.
No, but he left. He left to go to Stoke City, and we all know how that ended for him. He's now at Millwall.
Funny enough, yeah, because McLaren also left to join Newcastle, and
Yeah.
that didn't work either.
No, and now he's
So that's quite funny.
back as technical director. Funny enough.
Mm.
Um, but no, the Derby managerial job was open once again. Plenty of managers at the time were rumored with the job, but who was going to become that eighth manager in 5 years? And up next was Frank Lampard. He's one of the most, I think, legendary players, I think we could say, in the English game. We all know what he'd done in his time at Chelsea. And he was really stepping into, I think we could say at the time, a lion's den, one of the most demanding jobs in the Championship at the time, apart from Leeds. I think you could say those two are the most demanding jobs in the league, really, in the Championship. But were you quite concerned about him joining? Because it was his first job in management. He hadn't got any prior experience to that apart from his coaching badges and I think managing a few youth games with Chelsea. But with the previous record Derby had with managers, did you feel that this is a big risk and this could really backfire if it doesn't go well?
I think it was a big risk at the time because being a good footballer doesn't make you a good manager.
No.
Uh, like there's only a few cases of that. Like Pep Guardiola was a good player and he made a good manager, but there's not many who have become like good managers. I know Gerrard's doing quite well at the moment, but Lampard, I was a bit skeptical on whether he would make it. But he did do quite well for us, to be fair, and he got us he had good contacts. I think that's what he had over previous managers. He obviously has the Chelsea contacts. He had Liverpool contacts because he managed to get Harry Wilson on loan. And we kind of just built the team around loan signings, which doesn't really work because it's something that's happened with McLaren before as well. Like these players aren't going to be there for a while. They're only going to be there for a season. And once they've gone, you're kind of stuck with trash, which our team was. If you took Wilson, Tomori, and Wilson out, it just became a team full of just championship like rejects.
We had Mason Mount at the time as well. We've got to remember that Gareth Southgate's Mason
Oh
Mount.
yeah, Mason Mount, Tamori, and Harry Wilson. Yeah, they were our three gems, and we didn't have much else going for us.
No,
But it did kind of work out for him because he did get on well with the players. There was a good togetherness definitely at the club, more than there was under Rowett and definitely obviously Pearson. But it was just unlucky in the end. We went into the playoffs obviously, and we just missed out.
Well, yeah, as you said there, he first game he proved everybody wrong. He won his first game against Reading, and then he beat Manchester United in his 12th game against Jose Mourinho, first time in the
That was
trophy.
incredible. Yeah, we won on penalties that game.
Madness. And he was getting.
I couldn't believe that.
He was getting Derby into the playoffs on a consistent basis. And then we all know what happened next. Spygate after the Leeds game, after the defeat.
Yeah, the whole Spygate.
Leeds.
That was mad.
Leeds sent somebody down. Derby detained the member, and then Bielsa admitted later on to sending somebody down, and then showed everybody how to beat Derby County in a 70-minute presentation. I think you can remember that.
I don't know how he needed 70 minutes. I mean, it probably only takes about 7 minutes to work out how to beat us.
Well, we have to remember. I think he sent Peel down to Ipswich. I think it only take you 30 seconds at the time of what Ipswich having that season as well. How to beat them as well. So, world record there.
Bielsa, come on, got your ideas up.
But he guided. Frank. He's after all that stuff. He still guided Derby to a playoff finish in 6th, and back-to-back finishes in the playoffs. That's kind of a hard thing to do really for championship sides. But did you feel this Derby year under Frank Lampard? Could be it. And it was exceeding everybody's expectations here. He was, hitting a lot of critics down with he was doing well in a very demanding job, which previous managers had failed in before.
Yeah, he was. And we ended up not becoming Derby County, became Frank Lampard's Derby County, which triggered a lot of Twitter users, definitely triggered a lot. But yeah, it was a good time again. It felt similar to the McLaren era. The results weren't as good, I don't think. The football was on par, I reckon, or even better, maybe. Some of the games were. But he did very well, and he did a lot better than I thought he would when he was given time. At least he was given a season.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't long term because we had loan players. I mean, we had the right players, but we didn't have permanent players. So again, it was just going to fall on its backside again.
Yeah, well, they head into the playoffs once again, looking to end the drought of the Premier League. 12 years at the time the drought was. 12 years. God.
I know. God, I don't want to know how long it is now.
We'll mention it later on the show. But
too many years.
They had to play Leeds United. I think we could say the bogey team on and off the pitch that season. Leeds were a thorn in Derby County side. When you saw that you got to play Leeds in the playoffs here, did you feel that, oh no, this is not going to be good?
Well, yeah, because they'd done a double over us. Yeah, they'd won both times, hadn't they? So I just generally thought, and then they obviously won a third time because they won the first leg.
Yes.
And at that point, I was like, well, that's it then.
Yeah.
But I did have a slight feeling maybe something was going to happen, but I generally didn't have any expectations that we would win the game at all.
Well, you had to remember, Leeds did have that absolute crash at the end of the season, which did see them drop out the top two. But as you said, that the first leg did end 1-0 to Leeds. And then the second leg, it didn't start off too well. Leeds.
They were winning, yeah. They were cruising. They really were.
Yeah, Dallas.
We were not good at all.
Stuart Dallas, we got them 2-0 up on the aggregate. But then something happened before half-time. Jack Marriott, he made it 1-1 on the night. Straight from kick.
Terrible mistake from Pontus Jansson, wasn't it?
Oh,
I think.
Yeah, I can actually remember watching this game. I think it's probably the first Derby game I actually properly watched because all the controversy.
It was the best. You chose a good one. You chose a good one to watch. You really did.
And then it was 2-2. Mason Mount, he scored straight from kickoff, and then suddenly Harry Wilson, he made it 3-2. Derby were leading the game, 3 goals in 12 minutes, and then Leeds, they lost their heads. It ended 3-4.
They went terribly, didn't they? Went terribly for them.
They finished 3-4 on aggregate. Derby are heading to Wembley. This was such a crazy game for emotions. what were your memories of this game? You know, it was Derby were down and out, and then they were back in it and winning at one point.
I think because the game was so mad, Leeds just got caught up in it and their heads were gone completely. And we were just on a roll. And once you start getting 1 or 2 goals, that's it. The momentum swings in your direction. And that's clearly what happened with us. And it was a crazy game. And obviously the celebrations we did the binocular celebrations, which they were fitting. And obviously we got some of that from the Leeds fans as well. So it was a crazy game. And that team was just something special to manage to pull that off against probably the best performing team in that league that season, who should have gone up really. Don't know how they didn't.
Well, Derby, they headed off to Wembley once again, and you headed off to Wembley. So I'm going to leave this over to you to talk about your day heading to Wembley and what happened in the game. First time going to Wembley. That must be, what emotion is that like to go to Wembley?
Yeah, because I missed out on the QPR game. My granddad and my uncle went because I was offered to go, but I couldn't go because of school, which I'm glad I didn't in the end, because I would have probably been in tears. But the second time round, went to Wembley. Obviously went down there. I went on the train to the game with some Aston Villa fans who are actually really nice.
Oh,
I've got nothing against the Aston Villa fans, and it was my birthday as well during that, obviously that time and on the day. And so they gave me a beer or two, which was quite nice of them. So I literally have a lot of respect for Aston Villa fans, have to admit. And I work with an Aston Villa fan as well. So there wasn't really like bad blood between the two teams. I mean, we're both in the Midlands, but again, there's no rivalry there. So it would have been a lot different if it was Leeds. I think it would have been Leeds and Aston Villa, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
it would have been a lot worse, I think. So I think the fact that it was us and Villa made it a lot better of a game, and a lot probably better for the police, because it would have been crazy, I imagine, with the Leeds fans. But it was, and arriving, getting your match program, sitting down, getting your pictures for the Instagram. Yeah, just the build up to the game was fantastic. It was a long walk to the stadium, though.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been to Wembley?
I have. I've been to Wembley for the Women's FA Cup final, and it's such a long walk. But it
really is.
What did you feel about the walk? Because when I did it, it was you're amazed. You're like walking to the cathedral of like the home.
It's so big, isn't it? It's crazy.
It's beautiful, I have to say.
It's absolutely massive. Yeah. It's just crazy. Yeah. You look up and you're like, oh, I'm actually at Wembley. My God.
It's mad. It's absolutely mad.
It really is mad. I definitely want to go back. It would be great to go back again, even if it's not even just for football, for something else.
Yeah.
But it's a great moment. And even though the result wasn't what we wanted, it was still great spectacle. And I had a lot of good moments from the day itself, and to be able to go to London for the day is always good anyway.
Yeah.
And now we're in COVID times. Going anywhere is pretty good.
Yeah.
going to watch a boyhood team in the playoff final is one hell of an experience, and one I won't forget. Definitely not.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the day was good, but once again, more Wembley pain for Derby.
I know.
Things
but at least it wasn't a last-minute goal. I mean, at least we scored during the end, and we made it 2-1, but it just wasn't enough.
No, well, things got worse. All the star players in that season, they all returned back to the parent clubs, and then Frank Lampard, he left himself. He went to go manage his club, Chelsea.
That went so well, didn't it?
Well. Derby manless once again, but don't worry, only one day left after Frank Lampard left. Derby appointed their first ever overseas manager in Philip Cocu, a very experienced manager at the time in the Netherlands. He won trophies, I think, with PSV, if I'm correct. Very
we've gone through all the British managers. We'd run out of British managers to put. We already had McLaren, Rowett, Pearson. So we had to go overseas, didn't we? Get somebody from Holland.
Yeah, why not?
To come and save us. I was behind it. I was totally behind it when it came out, but it didn't go very, very well at all.
No, it did not. A poor start to the season. 7 points off the relegation zone at the time. But
we did have one good season. We had the first season was good under him, actually. Apart from all the crash.
We will mention that in just 2 seconds, but they recovered back to 10th place. But I think we can say the whole season will be unfortunately remembered, and his time there, for the infamous off-field behaviour by Richard Keogh, Mason Bennett, and Tom Lawrence. So, Richard Keogh, he got his leg broken in that car crash, then was
I
sacked
think it's
by the
still
club.
it's still in court now. I think they're still talking about it now.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
It's always been mentioned about, but Mason Bennett, Tom Lawrence, they weren't sacked by their club, even though they should have been 2 years banned from driving. But Harry, on the pitch and off, this season was an absolute mess compared to last.
Yeah, I honestly, it was just so many things are going on back to back, and it was just terrible. We couldn't get a break. Like, I did feel sorry for Cocu having to go through all of this, and then obviously the captain leaving, getting sacked.
Yeah,
doesn't help you at all, and that really did upset our season, to be honest. But we managed to stay up, luckily, that season, because it was a great finish. Diana finished 10th after going through all of that. I had to give Cocu some applause at least, but yeah, it was just, even the second season we were still recovering from all the stuff that had been ongoing, and then to have such a poor start to the season, we only won 1 in 11 games.
Yeah,
it's pretty abysmal. The worst start in 12 years, and it's kind of where we are now. That's why we're in the position we are, unfortunately. I mean, the Cocu period feels like such a long time ago right now, but it's literally only was last year.
It is crazy. Well, we're now finally on to this season, and I think we can be perfectly honest here. This season for Derby County has been pretty awful. Cocu was sacked after a 2-0 defeat to Barnsley, seeing Derby rock bottom in the Championship, as you mentioned there. 1 win out of the last 11 games. Their worst start for 12 seasons, 12 years. I think that was when they were in the Premier League, if I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's very similar. It's kind of reflects that season very closely.
Cocu was out. What did you think to it really? Because at the time there was so much promise when he came in with the the blend of bringing that sort of excellent talent. Derby were making the academy. We could say Derby have got an excellent academy, blending that with a first team squad. His experience in Holland, overseas manager, the hype about that first one.
There was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot of positives at that time. There really was. But again, it was putting a lot of pressure on some of the young players, because Mel Morris came out saying he wanted 50. I think it was like 50% of the team to be youth players.
Yeah, backfired on him,
which doesn't really work. No, it didn't work at all. You've got to have experience, and we were kind of running out of that by just putting the youngsters in the team. It wasn't going to work, I don't think. It was very optimistic. It couldn't work straight away. It had to be something that was a few years away, and we tried it too early, and that was the problem, really.
Yeah, well,
and we had a takeover as well, which was going on forever, and it's finally ended now. We're hopefully getting a new owner coming in, who sounds like an absolute nut job, but we might get something from. There might be some positives from it. I don't know, but at the moment he just sounds like all mouth, to be honest. No action. I don't know. A lot of these owners tend to be like that, though, don't they? They just tend to walk the walk, but again, they've got no experience. They've got no know-how, and I think that's what's going to happen. There's a lot of teams like that. Blackburn had that. I mean, you look at what's happened at Bolton. A lot of teams like that who have just fallen down, and I don't know. It might happen with us.
Well, before
I
we
really hope it don't.
Before we mention about the takeover, that all this what happened with Cocu, Mason Mount, it all backfired at them. Once Cocu left, there was talk of a new takeover. As you said, people who were previously linked with Newcastle and Liverpool, and who is Sheikh Mansour's cousin, who is the owner of Manchester City. His offer was approved by the EFL, and the takeover collapsed back in March after pulling out. But there was a bigger decision to be made on the pitch. Who was going to be managing Derby County? Who's going to be a new manager? And Wayne Rooney at the time became the player manager.
Wayne Rooney's Derby County, it became.
Yes, it did for a little bit of time. But whilst he was player manager, whilst Derby found somebody full time. But then 2 months later, nobody had been interviewed apparently for the managerial role. But then a whole 2 months later,
nobody considered.
Yeah. Wayne Rooney, he was appointed on a full-time basis. What were your thoughts at the time? He coming in as now a full-time manager. You've seen him as a player manager. It hadn't been going too well, but he had improved Derby's situation a little bit. They were 1 point off 1 point again outside the relegation zone, but only 2 more wins under his time there. Weren't looking great, really, him coming in at the period of time, really.
No, it didn't look good at that time. But again, obviously, he got the job, and then we started winning a few matches. We won against Bournemouth, QPR, Bristol City, Middlesbrough, Wickham. They were great wins, but again, I think it felt like more the honeymoon period of a new manager coming in, where you get the results you want. It's happened to a few managers. It's happened to Mick McCarthy at Cardiff, where things look rosy until the players suss out the manager or they just start falling out. And now it's got to the point where the performance levels are okay, but again, they're not getting results. The problem has been there's no goals. There's no goals in our team. There hasn't been the whole season. Our top goal scorer has got about 7 goals, and he's 35. And there's your problem there. The main player you're needing the goals from is getting to the end of his career, and that's the problem.
Yeah. You said that
it's always been a problem at Derby. It's been the long-term issue has been always about the recruitment. The recruitment has not been good enough for years now. The players who have been signed for ridiculous amounts of money have been bad.
Yeah, not been great appointments by Derby, but it's said the Wayne Rooney era. It began in Wayne Rooney's Derby County. I'm going to call them from now on because you've got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you've got to go to the memes, haven't you? You've got to go to them.
Got to jump on the bandwagon at some point, but the first 2 games, the losses came in, but then they started to put wins together. Wins against Bournemouth, QPR, Bristol City, Middlesbrough, Wickham. Derby were up to 17th. Dizzy heights.
Dizzying heights. Yeah, I know.
17th.
Tell me about it. I would take that right now. I really would.
7 points clear.
17th over 21st.
Yeah. 7 points clear. Did you feel that finally things are changing our way? The luck is now coming our way. We're going to get
the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. The mess is getting out of our way, and Wayne Rooney here is he's a good appointment, despite having no.
Well, I did think that, but what you have to also know is he has no coaching qualifications at all. No, he's got no coaching license because of COVID, you can't have it at the moment. You can't go and get them. And that's a big problem for me is why the hell would you give why would you give a job to a manager who hasn't got any qualifications? You wouldn't do that in any other job. So why would you do it in football? I know he's Wayne Rooney, but he hasn't got what he needs. Like Lampard had the right ones, really doesn't. So already that's alarm bells for me. And I was a bit skeptical at the time when he was appointed, but I did have hope maybe he'll get performances out of the players. He did initially, and then as players do, they drop off form and they need motivation to get back into their form again. And I thought he could provide it, but he clearly hasn't been able to. And again, we've relied on loan players, really. Matt Clark been a rock at the back for the last 2 seasons. And obviously Kazim Richards came in on a freebie. He's been good. But again, we're relying on players like Lawrence. We've got obviously Roberts, we got in on loan. He's played okay. But again, there's a lot of players in that team who have no end product at all. And that's why we've barely scored any goals this season.
Well, we're now finally here and the present day at the moment. It is a Wednesday. This is before Rotherham do play. Derby, they currently sit 4 points above the relegation zone. Wayne Rooney has been reassuring the fans that the club will avoid a relegation this season, despite only 1 win now in their last 11 games. There was a 3-0 loss, was it, last night to Preston?
It was honestly, that is a new low for us. It really is
shocking.
I mean, at this point of the season, losing 3-0 to a team only 3 places above you, it's just ridiculous.
Yes,
very disappointing indeed.
Rotherham have 3 games in hand currently at the moment, so it looks like they might close that gap. But Derby's short-term future is in doubt at the moment. But off the pitch, Mel Morrissey has agreed to sell the club once again to No Limit Sport Limited, which still need approval from the EFL. But as you said earlier, the person possibly take over. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of a mad hat at the moment. But
Yeah.
Derby's.
I mean, he says we can get Champions League football in a few years. I mean, has he seen the
Ooh.
league table?
Only if there's a
Or
Super League.
if only, you got it in there before me. Yeah, if only there was a Super League, we might move up a few places. We'll get rid of all the big teams. Yeah.
But Derby's long-term future here looks to be somewhat secure, we can say, but it's all about the short term at the moment. And I know it's going to sound bad, but do you feel that your club here will avoid relegation, or is it?
Well, we're hanging on by a
Like-
thread at this point. We really are. I mean, we don't deserve to stay up at all. If we go down, I'll accept it. I won't complain. I'll be like, that's it. We deserve it. If we stay up, I'll be like, oh well, we don't deserve that either. So really, we're heading in the way we deserve to go because this club has been very poorly run the whole season. The recruitment's been terrible.
Yeah.
A lot of the coaching must not be working. Whatever they're doing in training,
Yeah.
it hasn't had any effect on the team positively. And I've not got a lot of positives. I had a lot of
No.
positives for the club in the past, and especially when we appointed Koku initially. But ever since then, the positives have just been running thin and thinner and thinner.
Well, before we go, I better ask you one more question, and that is,
Yeah.
if you had to describe your time supporting Derby County in 3 words, what would it be? Without swearing, please, just in case.
In 3 words: chaotic, Spygate.
I thought you had mentioned that Spygate.
They sum it up. Chaotic and Spygate.
Oh,
Chaotic
okay.
is probably the only. Actually, I probably only need one word really. Chaotic, because that's
Okay.
that's literally been the main thing that's happened at this club for the past few years. It's just utter chaos. And there will never be a quiet day at Derby County Football Club. I tell you that.
No, it never will be. Well, Harry, I would like to thank you for your time talking about Derby County, your experience at Derby County, and I do wish Derby County all the best in the future. I sincerely actually do, because we don't want to see Derby County relegated to League One. Come on.
No, we could have done with Harry Wilson, but he went to Cardiff.
Yeah.
How dare you not? How dare you not give us Harry Wilson on another loan?
Oh, sorry. Let me just get to Klopp on the phone, and I'll get him over to
Yeah,
Derby County.
we could really do with him for the next 2 or 3 matches. just one of his free kicks, please.
You mean what about for the rest of his football career as well?
I want him for the rest of the football career. Yeah, just for a few years. Give him us on a free, on a Bosnan, please. Let him leave Liverpool for us. Anyone who can score goals, please send Derby's way.
I'll see what I can do. I'll send over Tino Werner.
Pull a few strings.
And
Timo Werner.
Yeah.
Oh
You'll
no,
get close.
that's all we need.
You'll get
That's all
close
we
to the
need.
goal.
I don't think we will. He can't score an open goal.
No, he cannot, unfortunately. Well, if you would like to be involved in a future Fans Talk episode, message me on Twitter, which is at GWTheMan on or at Pitchside Talk on Twitter. So social media before we go: Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixer both at Pitchside Talk, and make sure to hit that subscribe button down below to never miss another episode of this or even anything else we do. Harry, I must thank you once again for your time and for being on today.
That's all right, mate. Pleasure to come on.
Well, thank you very much for giving me up your. Oh my God, I can't speak. Give me your time. That's what I'm trying to say. God.
It's been a long episode.
It's been a long week already.
Oh yeah, and a long week. A long week of Super League nonsense.
Yes. Well, and I'll see you in another episode. Ciao.